Did you find it? So it's on page 2 of the student essay. Now, I wanted to point this citation out because it doesn't have an author's name. And the reason why is because this article doesn't have an author. And so there's always exceptions to the rules with in-text citation and your works cited citations, and this is an example of that. So we did not have an author's last name for this article, so we had to cite the title of the article instead. When exceptions like this happen, you can always ask a librarian for help if you're not sure how to handle it. MLA also has instructions for how you need to format your works cited page.
So for one thing, you need to have a hanging indent. And what that means is that when you create the citation, the first line of the citation should butt up against the left margin, and then every line after within the citation needs to be indented. Okay, and this allows the reader to easily identify how many citations you have. So we can see clearly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 citations here because we have the hanging indent. And there is a hanging indent tool that you can use in Microsoft Word and in Google Docs to help you create this. Okay, so the next thing is that your works cited list needs to be double spaced, and you do not want to include extra spacing after each citation. You also need to title your references list or your works cited list works cited, okay? And that's works, W-O-R-K-S, make sure you have that S there, and cited, make sure you have the ED at the end, so works cited. You also need a header, which is going to have your last name, so the student's last name, and the page number. So that's the number of your research, or the page number of your research paper, okay? Your font needs to be legible, so don't use Comic Sans. Use something like Times New Roman or Calibri. And you also need to use a reasonable size font. So usually the requirement is a 12-point font. So do not use anything too big, do not use anything too small. And then the last thing that I want to mention is that you do need to alphabetize your citations by the first entry. So you do not want to number your citations. What you want to do is alphabetize them by whatever is in the first entry. Usually that's the author's last name, but sometimes you don't have an author's last name, so it starts with the title of the citation. And so whatever's in that first entry, it needs to be alphabetized. So you can see here I have Baldry, Bauman, Gerds, Messett, and Monks, so all in alphabetical order.
So looking back at our student essay, I'm on the works cited page, and you can see how they have followed the formatting required by MLA citations. So we have, the references list titled works cited. It's in alphabetical order, it uses a hanging indent, it's double spaced. So you can see all of those elements have been implemented here. And when you write a research essay or a research paper in MLA style, this will be required of your works cited list as well. So I want to call your attention back to this specific citation. So the developments in the law of marriage and family article. Now, as an instructor, if I wanted to follow up on that resource, I could go ahead and pull this article up to read it. So I want to go back through with you and show you how you would find this article in a library database. As a quick review, in our last session together, we talked about what is a library database. And a library database is just an online collection of information. You can do keyword searches, you can do title searches or author searches in the database to find newspapers and magazines and academic journal articles. Those are scholarly articles written by professors for the academic community. Databases are important academic tools for doing research. And when you need to find articles to support your research essays and papers, it's important to be using the library's databases to find that information. We also discussed how to access the library's databases, so I'll show you that again. You want to go ahead and access the EVC homepage, and from the EVC homepage you're going to the library's website. All of our databases can be found on the articles page here or the find articles link here. They both take you to the same place, so you would just click on those, and then you have a list of all of our databases. When you are off campus, you would just click on the title of the database you want to access, and then it will ask you to log in with your first and last name and your student ID number. So if we wanted to find this article, we would need to determine which database to search. So this student found the article in the Academic Search Complete database, and this is the database that we had looked at initially in our first meeting. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Academic Search Complete. So once you have logged in and accessed the database, then you can search for the title of the article. So let's go ahead and do that search. And then we can click on the title and just make sure that it is the exact same article that the student had referenced. So let's go ahead and look back at our citation. So, Developments in Law of Marriage and Family, Harvard Law Review, published in 2003, volume 116, number 7. So, this is published in 2003, volume 116, issue 7. Perfect. So, this looks like the exact article, and we can go ahead and open it up to read it. And if we head back to our student paper, we can see what page numbers were being referenced. So here is the citation, and this information came from page 2069. So then what we would need to do is scroll to the correct page to pull the information. So here we are on page 2069. Now we can identify where the student took the information from in this article. So hopefully you can see why in-text citation and your works cited list is so important, because as I mentioned, it provides transparency to your research. Your instructor needs to know where the information came from so that he or she can determine if it's valid, if it's accurate, and if it's supporting your argument. Now, as I mentioned, for your first research essay in this class, I did create a resource list of articles that you can select from to help support your research. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up that list now. As you can see, there is about 9 articles for you to pick from. And just remember, you only need to pick one of them, although you could pick multiple articles. I have organized it as I would a works cited list. So I have provided you with the MLA citation for the article. What that means is you can copy and paste this citation into your works cited list for your essay. This is already appropriately cited for you in MLA style. Now, how do we find these articles? Well, we just have to apply the exact same steps that we did when we were looking at that student essay. So, if we wanted to find this first article, the first thing we would need to do is determine what database it comes from. So this article comes from Opposing Viewpoints in Context database. We would need to go to the library's database page and open up Opposing Viewpoints in Context. When you are on the database page, you can click on O and get to Opposing Viewpoints. Now that we are in the database, we need to search for the title of the article. So the title of the article is Online Advertising Aggressively Targets Children and Teens. And then we just want to verify that it is from the same authors, Jeff Chester and Catherine Montgomery. That looks accurate. We can go ahead and click on the title to view the article. A couple of these articles do come from Opposing Viewpoints in Context, but there's also other databases on the list. So you may have to go into our Gale eBooks database to access some of these articles. Additionally, there are articles from Business Source Elite and Academic Search Complete. So that concludes our second orientation on your writing assignment number 3. We covered our library databases, we discussed MLA citation, and we talked about how to find the articles on the resource list that I'm providing you to help you support your research essays in this class. Now, if you have questions and you want to talk to a librarian or you need assistance, you can go to the library's website and request research help. We have 2 different forms for you to fill out if you want to request research help from a librarian. One is research help through email. So if you just have a quick question, you can fill out this form here and we'll respond to you through email. I will provide your instructor with the URL for you to access this so that you can fill it out. And then the second form is an online research appointment through Zoom. So if you want to talk to a librarian live, you can fill out this form and we'll set up a meeting time for you to talk with a librarian. Both of these forms are linked from the library's homepage, but again, I will send them to your instructor so that you can access them directly. I wish you good luck and please contact the library with any questions.